Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought in this video we would talk about all of the pre-order premiums that are coming in the next major update. There are 7 of them so far, and to be honest, it is just insane how many there are for what would be classed as a standard update. Usually you only see this many pre-orders when Gaijin adds a new rank to the game, and they bring in a bunch of premiums across the board to obviously placate people to grind that new rank. In this update, we're not getting a new rank, we're just getting a new set of vehicles, and of course, alongside of it, a bunch of pre-orders. Now, with there being 7 pre-orders at this time, if I divvy up how much it is, if you want to buy them all, $638 Canadian, of course. The Canadian dollar isn't doing very well right now, but still, $638 if you want access to these 7 premium vehicles. There is a lot I can do with $638 when it comes to other games and also other areas, and it is just nuts to think how expensive these things have become. And I want to talk about a few things in this video in terms of balance, in terms of matchmaking, but also in terms of research, because the idea nowadays that I've seen from a lot of people is instead of just grinding out a tech tree, they just buy a high tier premium, grind out the tech tree that way, and then just play whatever the top tier is. And that just makes me sad and is also not sustainable for the game. And by placating that idea, it means that certain areas of the game are really going to struggle from it, and that kind of sucks. Also, at the same time, with the fact that 2 of these vehicles that are being that are there for pre-order are just blatantly pay-to-win vehicles, it just annoys me. So, first of all, let's talk about what I say what I mean when I say pay to win. Because obviously, you don't just buy these vehicles, then you'll automatically win the games. I use pay to win as a general term, and it has confused people in the past, so let's explain it here. A pay to win vehicle is a vehicle that gives you an advantage if you buy it. Right? So in a way, if the best example of this, which is very obvious in the game, is the F-16A Nets pre-order premium compared to the standard tech tree premium. The standard tech tree vehicle. The F-16A Nets premium has access to more countermeasures and also more secondary ordnance options than the standard Nets, which is in the tech tree, and they're at the same BR. So this is a issue that started actually with naval back in the day, where they added in a bunch of naval premiums, which were destroyers, which were just fundamentally better than their standard tech tree counterparts. They had more AA, they usually had better systems, they were generally just better. The best example of this is actually the Prinz Eugen with the cruisers setups, where if you have a look at the Eugen and compare it to the Hipper, the Eugen has more crew, more AA, more survivability. So you are paying for an advantage. With these vehicles that we're looking at in the game for this next pre-order, there are 2 of them which are obviously paying for an advantage. The Nets and the Clovis. The Clovis, which is basically a DF-105 on steroids, is the same BR as the DF-105, which is already a very powerful vehicle, but it gets a coaxial 20 and also a laser rangefinder. So if you buy these vehicles, you actually end up getting an advantage, and that is just crazy. Technically with the Arietta you get it too, but it's not a huge one, it's just a camo. Technically you do with the Type 74 as well, but it's a very minor one compared to what's there. And also, of course, with the Tiger, you do have other options in the standard tech tree for Germany. So overall, when you look at these vehicles, there is a big problem. And the problem is they aren't just selling them at very expensive prices, they also are selling some which are just straight up better than what you can get in the tech trees. This is unfair. It's as simple as that. When you have a game which has a free-to-play aspect and also a premium aspect, the one thing you can't do in order to maintain balance across it is to give paid people an advantage, which is a direct one. When it comes to War Thunder, it's always been pretty good in terms of the advantages. Usually what it gives you is it gives you a boost in research grind, right? So therefore you can get stuff quicker, whether it be crew skills, whether it be generally, you know, the higher tier vehicles, if that's what you want. But the main thing is, it usually doesn't give you an advantage over the opposition. It's a time advantage, if we want to put it. If you put in 4 hours to a game and using premium, whereas putting 4 hours and not having premium, you'll be halfway to where you were with premium. That's basically how it generally works, right? Whereas with some of these vehicles, you are just buying power, and that is just insane. The other problem with this is a trend that we've seen going forwards, and that is, as I said, people just buying high-tier premiums and just using them to grind out tech trees. This completely screws the research for everybody else when it comes to the game, because instead of the base research being around how long it takes you to get through a tech tree, it then becomes how long does it take you to get through a tech tree with a premium vehicle, and that's probably why we haven't seen a lot of research reductions over the last few years, and it's made a lot more trees untenable for people to grind through, because it just takes too long for people to get access to a lot of the content. The other part of it, which it also kind of causes from this, is people not having full lineups, which means it's impossible to balance these damn things because of the simple fact that they don't have, access to good data, especially when it comes to ground vehicles. The other part of it, which is a huge problem in terms of these vehicles coming in, is the simple fact it fully enforces the idea that Gaijin have said in the past, which is they think kind of the game is completed for a person when they complete a singular tech tree. So you buy an individual vehicle, which is very expensive, and then you grind through that tech tree, therefore game completed. But we have 10 nations in the game and over, 30 tech trees, 40 tech trees at this point. So the idea of just playing one of them is just nuts, and also has completely divided the community in terms of conversations, in terms of discussions, and in terms of arguments when it comes to balance and everything like that, because you have this issue that has always been there in War Thunder, but it's been getting worse every single year, and it's the fact that the amount of people who only play one side of an engagement instead of both sides of an engagement is getting smaller and smaller, and this means you cannot actually tell where their opinions are coming from apart from the vehicle that they're playing. Now, there are some people out there who are able to kind of tell or distinguish what is kind of going on both sides of the equation, whether it's by playing it or just whether because their just understanding of the game is very high. That is not the massive amount that I see. Instead, what I see is just advocacy for people wanting more power for their nation. And this creates a majority-minority issue where you have certain nations that get a lot of stuff because that's where the majority of players are, and you get other nations which get a lot less. And that means that you have this massive parity issue and also imbalance issue. And that's what we're seeing through these premiums even, and even through everything else. And it just kind of makes me sad. It just does, because this is why you have balance issues in the game, right? This right here. It isn't the premiums are bad for it, but also it's that there is too much in this game for an individual to play across the board, even when it comes to like ground or aviation. The idea of grinding out the vast majority of tech trees nowadays is untenable to a new player. It cannot exist, right? Just because of the amount of work and effort that has to go into it, and you'll still be nowhere near the top. And that is demoralizing. That is not good. That is not something which should be preyed upon. And these premiums are preying upon it, because they're basically saying, hey, we know the grind's too much. Go buy these high-tier things, and you'll grind a lot quicker. Will you have a good time while doing it? Probably, because some of these are pay to win. Some of them, they have a lot of mechanics. You'll enjoy them too. You'll have a decent time. But it means that you miss out on 95% of the content, because you want, for some reason, to just play top tier and that's it. Because that's where the cool vehicles are in your head. And this sucks. It's preying on that. And if this is the new standard, where we just have a ridiculous amount of pre-orders every update, and this issue is going to continue, it's just going to be really sad. By the way, screw daylight savings time. Heard it here first. Absolutely demonic idea. Time to get rid of. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.